Imagine waking up tomorrow to find every server and every power grid has gone silent. If you've spent any time in a movie theater lately, you likely envision a sudden regression to a scorched, desolate wasteland where survival is a violent, paranoid race for the few remaining resources. American films like The Road and The Book of Eli have reinforced this specific expectation. In these narratives, the loss of technology triggers an immediate moral decay, where survival depends entirely on hostile individualism and a shoot-first approach to every stranger you meet. Nature in these stories is portrayed as a dead, adversarial force. There are no thriving forests or clean streams, only a barren environment that must be conquered or endured, rather than an ecosystem capable of supporting life. This dystopian framing suggests that our modern tools are the only things preventing human nature from collapsing into a selfish, primitive war of all against all. This cinematic anxiety is anchored in a genuine psychological reality. We are acutely aware of how deeply we rely on systems we don't fully control. This vulnerability is a central theme in German science fiction. In the novel Black Hole, author Mark Ellsberg explores how a sudden power outage across Europe exposes the terrifying fragility of a society that has optimized itself for a single interconnected power grid. This contrasts with a common American sci-fi fear, the misuse of control. In Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, technology is selectively restricted by an authoritarian regime, using surveillance to strip away personal freedoms and enforce a rigid social order. Whether the threat is a systemic blackout or a state-controlled database, we have learned to associate the absence of technology with a total loss of personal safety and autonomy. But European cinema offers a quieter alternative to the Hollywood wasteland, one where a world without technology is actually a chance to slow down. In the film The Wall, a woman isolated in the Austrian Alps is forced to return to primal survival. Instead of fighting nature, she learns to coexist with the landscape and animals around her, finding a functional, if lonely, stability. Other European films, such as Tides, shift the focus to the group. Survival here is a communal effort, where the narrative centers on sharing limited resources and rationing supplies through cooperation rather than individual violence. These films explore a more complex moral landscape. When a protagonist in The Wall has to hunt an animal, the story lingers on the internal psychological weight of that choice, rather than celebrating the kill as a simple act of badass survivalism. In these stories, losing modern technology creates a space for deep introspection and a genuine connection to the environment, suggesting that we can adapt to a simpler world without losing our empathy. This European model is more than just a cinematic style. It closely mirrors the actual experiences of people who choose to unplug in the real world. Individuals like Mark Boyle have proven that living entirely off the grid is a viable, if demanding, path. By foraging and growing his own food, he demonstrated that self-reliance can lead to a productive life far removed from the violent chaos of a Hollywood script. The real challenges of this lifestyle aren't roving gangs, they are the mental hurdles of modern life. People who disconnect often struggle with FOMO, the sudden loss of digital habit loops, and the logistical difficulty of maintaining relationships with distant family. However, the physiological data suggests the trade-off is measurable. Nature therapy and the removal of constant digital stimulation have been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce cortisol levels, and even boost creative problem-solving skills. While we fear a total breakdown of order, the actual risks of a tech-free life are mostly psychological. The rewards, by contrast, are tangible improvements to our physical and mental well-being. We don't need a total systemic collapse to experience these benefits. We can achieve a higher degree of independence simply by changing how we view the devices in our pockets. On average, an individual spends 11 hours a day plugged into media, nearly half our lives. But building digital boundaries shatters that dependency, reclaiming time for practical skills, community building, and physical activity. This shift turns technology into a tool you pick up for a specific task, rather than a crutch you rely on for your entire sense of engagement and entertainment. Adopting these habits of self-reliance serves as a personal insurance policy against the systemic vulnerabilities we explored earlier. When we prioritize local community ties and manual skills, we mitigate the fear of infrastructure failure. Someone who knows how to garden, how to repair tools, and collaborate with neighbors is less dependent on a fragile, far-away power grid. Likewise, practicing digital minimalism protects our individuality from the surveillance and social pressures of the American dystopian model. By reducing our digital footprint, we reclaim our time and our focus from the platforms that seek to control them. Choosing to disconnect on our own terms transforms a potential crisis into a manageable lifestyle. By trading digital crutches for manual competence, we gain a grounded independence that functions regardless of whether the servers are online.